Hi, welcome back to the channel. I just wanted to do a unscripted video on some tips for rental properties. If you're someone with rentals wanting to get into it, have a passion for real estate, I thought I'd just give you some of my knowledge. I'm so glad that a lot of you really liked the last video on how I bought 2 houses before 23. So I thought this was a good segue into rental properties. Both of my houses are 2 apartments, so I have 2 rental properties, which is a total of 4 units, but I do live in 1 unit, so I manage 3 units, which is 3 sets of tenants. So let's get into some of my best tips. Firstly, I would say the best thing you can do is automate everything possible, especially for tenant placement. When you have a tenant moving out or you're just purchased a property and you have to do tenant placement, it can be a lot because you're posting it probably on Marketplace. You're getting tons of messages. Hi, is this still available? You don't even know if these people are serious. Maybe you write in the thing, tell me a bit about yourself, but they tell you nothing. They message, hey, is this still available? So you're spending all day long answering all these messages and just not getting the information you need. So what I do is I go to Google Forms and I create a form. I ask questions like name, contact information, how many pets, what kind of pets, can you provide proof of income? How many vehicles do you have? It's going to be available for April 1st. Is that okay with you? All those questions that you want to gather. Are they looking for long or short term? And then you can sit down one night and you can go through all your Google form responses. You can individually pick out the people that you feel like best suit what you're looking for, that don't have too many cars for the property or too many pets. Maybe you're not pet friendly, and then you can schedule viewings. That way you don't waste the time on scheduling viewings for someone that maybe has too many vehicles or too many pets that you're not okay with. You really automate that system so that your life doesn't revolve around tenant placement. So when someone moves out, you're not freaking out about putting in the next tenant. There's nothing more important than choosing the right tenant, because honestly, I would much rather go a month without rent than get a tenant that pays no rent. I know people that have gotten a tenant in and they've never paid a month of rent. That is an absolute nightmare, especially when you need that money to pay your mortgage, your property taxes, all the things. And you definitely don't want damage. I think it's so important to collect a damage deposit. Find out in your area how much you can ask for. Where I live personally, it's 75%. So if rent was $1,000, you can charge up to $750 for the damage deposit. Make sure, honestly, take the most you can, because you never know what can happen. And of course, that money, if it's a lot of damage, is not even going to cover a quarter. So take the damage deposit that you can, and take a lot of pictures and videos before they move in so that you know the shape of your unit before someone moves in. I think it's very important to get references, do any kind of background checks that you need. I was actually doing tenant placement for a family member, and this tenant applied. She seemed great. She gave me her references, and her references were her boyfriend and her boyfriend's mom, which personally I felt like, that's not a reference. That's not a good character check. It needs to be someone that's not, biased. If I'm doing a reference, I can't give you my mom's number. That's obviously not going to be on bias. So I think it's really important to take the time to really look into who is going in your home and do the research necessary. Having rental properties can absolutely be stressful and a lot of work, but I think honestly, it's also very rewarding, and it's a great investment because it's not money today. You're not getting rich quick by any stretch, but you're building equity over several years. Having rental properties is a great way to build up a retirement fund, because if you're purchasing these properties in your 20s or 30s, they're likely paid off by 40s, 50s, 60s. Then you can sell them, you can get that equity, and you could have that retirement money in your pocket. It's really important when you have any properties, or especially rentals, that you keep a fund of money, an emergency fund for what if that roof needs to be replaced? What if they call you and the toilet's leaking and you need a plumber, or anything could happen? So it's really important that you have money available to you to get those things fixed. I think it's really important to be a good landlord. We hear the term all the time of a slumlord. You really want to be a good landlord. I honestly don't think that, personally, I wouldn't want to rent to anyone I know. I don't think you should be friends with your tenants. I don't think you should rent to friends or family. It's a hot take. Maybe you'd love to rent to someone you know. I personally would not, because if you're renting to your good friend Sally, and Sally is going through a hard time and can't pay rent, and she thinks, well, you're friends, you're gonna let it slide. Like, you can't afford to lose that month of rent. So I think it's really important that you have someone that can respect your boundaries, and I think it's better not to have anyone that you have a connection with, because sometimes the worst people that you can rent to is friends or family. So I think it's really important that you're very cautious on that. And that's why I think references are so important, because it's great to see, you call up their past landlord and see what they say. Maybe they left the place a mess. Maybe they never paid rent on time. Maybe they were horrible tenants. And that's the thing, like, people are so against landlords and everything, but you work so hard to get that house, and it's so important that you protect your property. One of the most impactful things you can do, and that you need to do, is take the time to study the Landlord Tenancy Act in your area and know all the rules. And another big thing that I did not mention that for me is really important is I'm kind of against long-term leases. So I have people say all the time, we love a 1-year lease, a 2-year lease, and I'm like, absolutely not. I'm pro only month to month. And I know what you're thinking, well, don't you want that guarantee that someone's gonna be there long-term? And my mind goes to, what if they get there and they are a nightmare of a tenant? They're bothering you all the time with pointless stuff. They're trashing the place. Neighbors are complaining about their parties, whatever the case may be. And it's January and their lease is not up till the next January, and you're stuck with them. You don't have any out. And it's that trapped feeling that you don't want to get into, where this is applicable to where I live now. But if you're on a month to month, then you can give them 3 months notice. So at least still 3 months is a while, but it's so much better than waiting 9 months, a year, 6 months. So I like to have that control of my own property, which is why I like to stick to month. That way, if the place isn't working out for them, they can give me 30 days notice on the day they pay rent and they can move out. I like the flexibility for both. Also, I think that if someone was in a year lease and they didn't like the place, they'd probably just up and leave, and what could you really do? I think you'd have a hard time getting any money from that, or if you go to court, I don't think you'd probably get much out of it. So I personally think the month to month is just the best option. I think it's really important that you establish things like, is snow clearing included or not? You don't want them calling you up about snow clearing and lawn care all the time. If it's in the contract, that it's their responsibility and not yours. Another big thing is ensuring the amount of vehicles they have. If you only have parking for 2 vehicles and they have 3 or 4, that's not gonna work. Where I live, there's parking bans on the side of the road in the winter, so it's really important that you gather that information. It's so important that you know who's gonna be living there. Another big thing is your rental gonna be furnished or not furnished? That is a huge one, because are you going to take the cost of having all that furniture? I personally wouldn't choose to have a furnished rentals. I actually did buy one of my 2 apartment homes, and it was furnished in the basement apartment. So now I do have one of my units furnished. However, I personally wouldn't furnish one to rent if I wasn't doing something like Airbnb, because it's a lot of extra costs for not very much extra a month, unless it's really popular in your area, which is not in mine. Next big one is POU, pay your own utilities. Are you gonna include heat and lights, or are they gonna pay for it? Are you gonna include Wi-Fi, or are they gonna pay for it? When we lived at our other place, we let the tenant use Wi-Fi, our Wi-Fi, downstairs as long as we were there. Are you gonna allow something like that, or do they have to pay their own? It's really important that you figure out everything before you start renting. Of course, you can always hire a property manager, or you can educate yourself and do it yourself. Either is a great option. Thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions, please drop them below and I will answer them all. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe. Bye.